Welcome to another edition of the Insider Hoop Scoop. I'm Jarret Johnson. I'm joined by the mighty Joe Yeager. Mighty Joe, man, anytime the Red Raiders can pick up a W against the Sooners like they did earlier this week, was a 69-61 victory. It was a really close game, but then at the end, they pulled away in the last couple of minutes. But it was a weird feeling. Anytime you can do that, you can beat Oklahoma. It's a good thing in any sport. But man, it didn't feel. I won't say it didn't feel like a victory, but it felt like there was some lingering anger, especially from Coach Beard. Can you kind of break down what the feeling was like and what it was like in the post-game presser?
Yeah, of course, Beard is always happy with a win.
Right.
And particularly a win against a conference opponent. And Oklahoma is a very solid basketball team.
Yeah, they're a good team.
I think ultimately they will make the NCAA tournament. You got guys like Manic.
Okay.
I think they will. I think they'll sneak in. Right now, they're on the razor's edge.
Yeah.
But I believe they have the ability to finish strong. Manic, I love as a basketball player.
You've always liked him.
I have, and he's getting better and better. Doolittle's a good player. And they got some good talent on this team. I like the 2-point guards. So, point is, beating those guys is a solid accomplishment, and Oklahoma played very well.
They did.
They really had
to win.
Yeah, they did. They have nothing to be ashamed about and how they performed. So, look, Tech took care of business.
Yeah.
I think what Beard was most displeased with overall was just the defensive play.
Yeah.
I think he's beginning to lose a little bit of patience with this team on the defensive end because it just doesn't consistently look like the sort of defensive teams that you see under Chris Beard.
Yeah.
Part of this has to be effort or its lack. He said himself that, we got guys picking and choosing when they want to play defense, taking possessions off. If you have one guy on any given possession who doesn't lay it out like he's supposed to, that breaks the entire defense down, and they're probably going to score on you, man.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he was mainly irritated about. He's losing patience with this team on the defensive end, but he needs some of these guys for what they can do on the offensive end. So you're in a little bit of a dilemma.
Yeah.
If you start sitting these guys down because they're not getting it done on defense, then your offense suffers a little bit.
Can you afford to send the message and maybe lose a game or two here down the stretch? I don't think they can, Joe, based on their resume.
No, not at this point. It's it's something else he probably doesn't like because he's between a rock and a hard place.
He is, yeah.
He's in a situation where, if you were safely in, people were charting you as a 2 or a 3 seed right now, then you could do something like that. But as it is right now, Tech is anywhere from like an 8 to a 10. Every game is crucial, so about the only real message you can send is the way he did it, through the media. And you can be sure he's sending it in practice a lot, and he has been. But maybe
publicly shaming
publicly a little bit. That's it. Shame him, by golly. And maybe that will get the point across. And so,
finally get some use out of us media folk, Coach Beard.
I think he gets plenty of use out of us one way or the other. For obvious reasons now, this Texas game is going to be very interesting, and we're going to have to see if Tech does look any different on the defensive end.
Before we move on to Texas, which I definitely want to do, I just want to point out one thing. There were some times it was evident that Oklahoma was out hustling Tech to the ball and to rebounds, and that's something like I'm not used to seeing from a Chris Beard team. But I thought there was a key moment late in the game where Davide Moretti kind of slapped the ball away from Doolittle and dove on the court, and I think it was it Shannon who actually ran after it and dove for the ball, but didn't get to it. Oklahoma still had the ball, but I think it got the crowd going, got the team hype, and really that's when Tech made that run. I think, honestly, that was one of the biggest differences in that game against Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And, Davide did something almost identical to that last year against K-State in Lubbock.
Oh, yeah.
There was a situation, it was against Cartier Jada. And it was late in the game. It was
that was an ugly game. Those two
it was, it was. It was nasty. Nasty. Ugly as Kansas State's uniform.
The two Big 12 champions, though.
All right, ugly but good. You had that same situation late in the game. I think a 4 or 5 point game. Tech needed a stop, as Beard said. We needed a tough play, and Davide delivered it. And that was something that was kind of lacking a little bit, or was a weakness with
Yeah.
Davide, was the toughness side of
Right.
it. And then he goes ahead and he reprises that against Oklahoma. And so I definitely agree that was a turning point and a spark.
Okay, so I saw Davide take a charge from Zion in New York. That put his toughness questions to bed for me. Moral, I remember Beard actually talking about that in the postgame presser. Like, he looked at me like, "Did you see that?" I was just rolling, you take a charge from Zion. And this was like full charging on the break, Zion. Then if you're willing to take that at Davide's size, then you're pretty tough. So Texas, 3 p.m. Saturday in Austin.
Yep.
Last year, man, it was a monumental win for many reasons. Obviously, before that, you hadn't beaten them in Austin since, 96, I believe it was. Some of the guys that are no longer there had big games. I remember Matt Mooney especially kind of had like a coming out party offensively in Austin. But I think perhaps more impressively, and I've heard from some people in town, because of course they want to talk Tech basketball when they see me, that they're going to Austin. So I've heard from double-digit people at least just in the last couple of days who randomly say, "Hey, are you going to go? I'm going to Austin." So there's a good chance that Tech fans could take over there in Austin like they did last year. So it'll be interesting to see if that takes place. But Joe, give us some keys to the game. Look, obviously not a great UT team, but they always have talent, and it's always tough to win there in Austin.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, don't ask me why. They always play well against Texas Tech, unless it's maybe senior day in Lubbock or something like that, when you don't stand much of a chance. But so yeah, they always manage to get up for Texas Tech and play well, and I expect that to happen again. Texas, yeah, as you said, they're certainly not great by any stretch of the imagination, but they're playing pretty well right now. They are competitive with just about everybody, including Kansas on the road and in Austin. They competed well. They came within 2 points of beating a darn good LSU team in Austin. I'm telling you right now, I think LSU is a potential Elite 8 team.
Wow.
And so I thought LSU was just going to come in and brutalize the Longhorns, and that didn't happen. So
I watched some of that game. They were definitely competitive. That was a good game.
It was, and they were very competitive. So be warned. This ain't going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. Texas, now they don't have a heck of a lot of depth. They got about 5 guys that are really good ball players, and then you just Shock is trying to cobble together a little something from this guy and a little something from that guy, just enough to get through. So not a whole lot of depth there. Maybe you can kind of wear them down a little bit, because Tech's depth, I think, is a little bit better than Texas's. So that's one possibility. But another thing that makes Texas difficult to prepare for is, and it sounds kind of strange to say this, is their individual players are so inconsistent.
They don't know who's going to have a
that's right.
Up game or bad,
if you look at their stats, there is no superstar in this team, but you got like 4 guys who are averaging in double digits. Matt Coleman leads the pack at 13 points per game. They're all averaging around 10 to 13 points. And, one guy will pop up and have a monster game and beat somebody, and the next game he vanishes. Same with everybody in that group. You just don't know who's going to show up and who isn't. But it seems like more often than not lately, they're getting enough people show up that they can compete and they can win some games. So it's it's going to be a kind of a crapshoot to see who rises up for Texas, and then you got to kind of adjust on the fly and adjust accordingly to who's playing and who's not.
Who on Tech needs to have a good game in your opinion? Who's like one guy you'd like to see step up, have a big role in Tech winning in Austin again?
Yeah, what makes this so tricky is that you got a couple of guys that I think are pretty banged up right now and key players, and Terrence Shannon and Chris Clark. Now, I don't know if Beard has officially said anything about Terrence Shannon's back. I should have asked him about that. But I could tell when I was watching the Oklahoma game, he was visibly wincing out there. He was just not his normal self. So I'm worried about that, and I'm worried about Chris Clark's ankle, which clearly is nowhere near 100%.
Well, he tweaked it again.
Yeah, I know. It just seemed, and I think Shannon has done the same thing with his back a couple of times.
Yeah.
So, where are those guys going to be? You really need them. Outside of that, Kevin McCullough is a guy that I'm intrigued by just because he's really, really coming on, and if he can continue to develop and become a consistent player, then boy, he makes you that much better. I think he's probably your best on-ball defender. and a pretty good rebounder as well, a tough, gritty guy who plays hard all the time. He's really a Chris Beard sort of a player, you know, so you got that going for you. And there are some signs, very tentative and early signs, that he's beginning to develop a little bit of a stroke, you know, and that shot is coming around. He hit that big three-pointer late in the first half against Oklahoma. So, you know, we'll see if he can start lending a little bit of offensive firepower as well. But yeah, McCullough is a guy that I'm going to be interested in seeing.
This may be Captain Obvious, but man, TJ Holyfield, his rise in play has coincided with Tech either winning or being very competitive with some of the top teams in the country. So for me, if Holyfield can continue his, I think it's been 4 games in a row now. If he can continue that level of play where he's, you know, double-digit scoring, you know, getting, being one of the top rebounders and great, actually, rim protection. I mean, he has like 11 blocks in his last 3 games. He's been tearing it up on both ends of the court. He still turned the ball over a lot, but I think that's just something you're going to have to live with at this point. But if he has a good game in Austin, I think Tech, I think they get out of Austin with the win 2 years in a row after not doing it since '96.
I know, could be. And another thing with Holyfield, he hadn't been getting in foul trouble lately.
Well, that's a key.
You know?
You got to be on the court.
I know. And earlier in the season, man, he was constantly. I mean, he's like he'd have 3 fouls in the first 12 minutes, and then he's gone for 8 minutes the first half, and then he maybe pick up 1 early in the fourth, and you have to sit him again. But
I think he's getting more comfortable on both ends of the court. I think it's stepping up. I'm hoping this could be a consistent thing, and I think Tech's going to go on a tear here. I really believe. I think they're going to win in Austin. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think they're going to get on a roll here. I think it's going to be fun to see them roll into the tournament, getting confident, and some guys getting comfortable in their positions. But, you know, Maya Joe, we'll see. We'll see what we say next week in this video when they return back from Austin. Great stuff from you as always. Thank y'all for watching, and until next time.